Yes!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Completionist. Obviously, I'm not standing in front of the set today. I told you all last week. I got surgery. I got a procedure done. I got a tumor removed out of my leg, back of my leg more specifically, and it kind of took me out for a whole week, maybe more. I'm fine. The surgery went great. Doctor said I'm good to go. It's just going to be a long recovery cycle. About six weeks to 3 months for full recovery, but I'm gonna be all right. We're still gonna be completing games. We're still gonna be giving you guys new videos. So hey, stick around as always. New stuff's coming at your way every single Friday. And speaking of that, that's why we're here for today's episode. When Christopher Nolan released the Dark Knight trilogy, people were excited to finally see Batman taken a little bit more seriously. The dark tone, especially when you take Heath Ledger's Joker into consideration, left chills for so many comic book fans out there. Yet up to this point, comic book fans and gamers alike never really had a great Batman game. In fact, most of them were kind of ridiculous. Like, really ridiculous. Sorry, I just saw the bad. But that's all in the past. Enter Rocksteady and their ambitious instant classic that spawned a whole new awesome franchise. Let's take a look at Arkham Asylum. As a franchise, Arkham Asylum still seems like an unrealistic dream. There's been so many Bat games since the appearance of the Batman films by Tim Burton and the animated series throughout the years. They generally have been 2D platformers that have a weird nostalgia factor for many. Yet along comes Arkham Asylum and a new genre is born, the open world sandbox Batman genre, which includes these games. And Assassin's Creed Unity, kind of. Real talk, all of them are super awesome, except Unity. Batman Arkham Asylum, called Arkham Asylum, takes place exclusively in, well, Arkham Asylum. It begins with Batman escorting a freshly arrested Joker into the asylum, suspecting that his longtime nemesis was captured on purpose. Many of Joker's henchmen were recently transferred into Arkham due to a fire at the prison they were being held in. And it all just seems a little too convenient. Sure enough, after a few tense minutes of walking with the belted down Joker deeper into the building, his plan is set into motion with the help of Harley Quinn and some rogue security guards. Commissioner Gordon is then abducted and, surprise, the Joker escapes into the asylum. Joker then threatens to detonate bombs hidden all over Gotham City if anybody tries to go in or out of Arkham. And Batman is then forced to take care of this issue all on his own. To top it off, with Joker and Harley at the reins of security systems, all of Batman's enemies that are locked in Arkham are no longer really locked inside. It's the Dark Knight versus anybody and everybody he's ever put away in here, and they all want a piece. And I don't mean just thugs. I'm talking iconic Batman villains like the Riddler, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and even Killer Croc. No, not that guy. Who even is that guy? The story from here revolves solely around the events in Arkham, adding an interesting sense of small scale and close quarters tension. Unlike previous superhero games similar to this genre, like Spider-Man 2, there isn't so much to take in all at once. There's so little space to work with that every small section of the asylum is important to the plot and the progression of the story. There is a ton of great storytelling here. I feel that if you're new to Batman, this is a great way to get started. And we do genuinely see the story of Bruce Wayne. Sure, it seems like it's not enough, but we do get enough here to really see who Batman is. Riding on the heels of the release of The Dark Knight, the second of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, Arkham Asylum had big shoes to fill with regards to characters and presentation. A sense of realism was required in order for Arkham to work, and I think the game does that very well. Graphically, the game still holds up great. But I will comment that on the PS3, sometimes the atmospheres load quickly, but the detail doesn't appear as quick as it should. It's like you're loading into an MMORPG and the textures haven't finished loading. You get my drift. Partially due to not having the full rights to several movie-based iterations of Batman characters, none of the design mirrors anything from Nolan's films or even the Tim Burton films. Instead, they opted to hit a midpoint of realism in the iconic art of Jim Lee. And everyone's super buff looking, right? I can't be the only one. The Unreal Engine makes everyone look so buff. Hashtag buff boys. Still, Batman looks like a total badass. He keeps the black and dark gray color scheme, but his suit feels much more real. The material looks durable and gritty, like a real gadget-based superhero would have. And it all looks more like actual armor than just a cloth bodysuit. On top of that, Batman looks the part of somebody as physically fit as he should be to have to fight a wave of goon after goon. Hashtag buff boys. The Joker is definitely the most obvious nod to Jim Lee's art style. His look lines up perfectly with the gaunt and thin design used in the comic series. And from here, Mark Hamill returns to lend his vocal talents and really brings the character to life.
If I see you trying to follow me, he dies. Harley's looking forward to it. Maybe I'll film it and post it on the internet.
Mark Hamill, if you don't know, is the actor who not only played Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, but also originally voiced Joker in Batman the Animated Series, and essentially defined the Joker voice.
Kill Captain Clown.
You can also hear him as the Watcher in Darksiders, and let's be real, he's just doing the Joker voice.
Changing the deal already, Samael.
Be silent, filth.
If you're not a Batman fan, then play the game for the Joker, because hot damn, Mark Hamill is perfect, giving you chills at some of his lines, while at the same time, you love him. He's not afraid to make the Joker funny.
Tell me, Bats, what are you really scared of? Me? In a thong?
So the Joker is voiced by Mark Hamill, and Batman is voiced by Kevin Conroy. Why is that so interesting? Well, because they both animated their characters from the Batman the Animated Series. So these two voice actors have a ton of chemistry with these two characters. And you see that all over the place in Arkham Asylum.
Is it true the Joker escaped?
Unfortunately, yes. But not for long.
Several other characters received massive redesigns, such as Bane, Killer Croc, and most notably, Harley Quinn. Despite her usual and iconic outfit being the red and black latex bodysuit, her redesign really works well for a more realistic feel, incorporating school uniform and nurse outfit elements with her usual color scheme, which is fitting because technically we're in a hospital. Plus, okay, she looks really pretty. Okay, I know, it's a game. I'm a man, I'm not afraid. Hashtag feelings. Visually, the asylum itself is stunning. Each and every area has just the right amount of grit and decay to give that very old feel. This iteration of Arkham Asylum has it mirroring the prison island of Alcatraz. The architecture and building design dates the building back with a lot of Gothic and Victorian elements, really pulling together a creepy and ancient feeling setting. Overall, the graphics are pretty solid. Fighting and movement animations are swift and fluid, and there always seems to be a good connection between actions that make them look and feel real. The color palettes aren't all grays and browns. There's great use of bright and vibrant colors to keep the aesthetic very similar to a comic book. All in all, with the cast of veteran voice actors to back up all of the amazing visual design, Arkham Asylum really cemented itself as a staple Batman iteration, if not the staple Batman game. Sorry, Batman Forever on PS1, it's a new day. Arkham Asylum is a lot of things, gameplay-wise that is. It has great combat elements, tons of secrets, and dozens of memorable and interesting moments that really stick with you after playing. The core of the gameplay has you uncovering new ways to access the next area, usually by extensive use of Batman's huge arsenal of gadgets and tech. And while doing this, you often run into groups of escaped convicts, and you have to take them on in hand-to-hand combat. If you're familiar with the Batman canon, Bruce Wayne's whole MO is that he doesn't kill criminals, he only brings them to justice. This is what stops us from driving a tank straight through the wall and blasting everybody to bits. Well, at least until Arkham Knight comes out. Damn, dudes. This dude's parents got murdered in an alley. Check yourselves before you wreck yourselves. If your name's Becky, prepare to get wrecky. Hashtag buff, boys. So this means that no matter the odds stacked up against you, you have to really rely on nothing but some boomerangs, a rope thing, and good old-fashioned fisticuffs. Luckily, the hand-to-hand combat is handled really well, and the different combinations of attacks add a huge level of diversity to all of the fights. Moral of this, it feels awesome to beat dudes up. Further diversity appeals in certain boss fights, and they all feel really cool and unique. From things like brute force battles with Bane to guerrilla warfare baiting and dodging with foes like Killer Croc. You'll never get tired of these fights. One of the most notable bosses in the game is the creative implementation of Scarecrow. Scarecrow fights using fear gas, which causes hallucinations of your worst fears to appear. The scene takes a dark turn, and you're left in a game of hide and seek with a giant Scarecrow that can one-shot you instantly. Later in the game, it gets even more creative. The game begins to crash. I've seen enough fake game glitches and crashing in my life, but this was plenty convincing. The glitch looks like the disc is getting wrecked, and then suddenly it leads into the game starting over. But now we're playing as Joker, and Batman's the one that's locked up. They were incredibly clever in making the fear gas address the player's deep fears, and not just Batman's. It's like Psycho Mantis' little baby son. Aw, Kojima, PT. One of my absolute favorite things about this game is the death animations. Now, I'm not saying in the way that Batman gets killed. I'm saying that when you die, you're taken to a game over-esque type screen. It involves the Joker and the various villains taunting you about how you died.
Oh, isn't that cute? The little bats are sleeping. Someone finish him off.
This goes to show that the atmosphere, the overall game design, and the gameplay mashed together creates this wonderful atmospheric experience. They could say whatever they want to hurt your feelings, you want to get up and get back into it. For team completionists and puzzle gamers out there, you'll have a lot of fun collecting all of the Riddler challenges. Every area has a handful of different puzzles hidden about, and they were set up by the Riddler. These are things like finding and destroying the chattering Joker teeth, finding the secret hidden question marks, and collecting the hidden Riddler trophies, Chronicles of Arkham, and patient interviews. The tape interviews are pretty awesome, with fully voice-acted sessions between notable Batman villains and the Doctors of Arkham.
Ever heard of romance, Doc? I don't give up the goods for free. You'll have to try harder.
It's really cool and Bioshocky, and it adds a bunch of extra backstory to all of the characters in the game, and to even some that don't directly even appear. Finding a new tape was always exciting because it meant more insight, and it was always just enough to satisfy while not slowing down the game at all. The other major hurdle that you completionists out there are going to have to go through are the combat challenges. There are 16 arena-style combat missions outside of the main story that are mainly unlocked by completing a set number of Riddler challenges. The challenges are split into two categories: Combat and Predator. In Combat, you're given a room full of predetermined baddies to take down as efficiently as possible. Getting a good rating here relies on you keeping a combo throughout the entire fight, and that means not taking any hits. And when set to extreme difficulty, these challenges can be pretty grueling. But when you nail that perfect run, it feels so awesome. In Predator, you're dropped into a stealth situation in which you need to eliminate all the enemies while remaining undetected. This forces you to pull out all the stops. Instead of running around in head first and beating people up with your fists, it's much more effective to set explosive gels. Use your grappling hook. Perform stealth takedowns. This mode is designed for you to use all of your tools and assets as the Batman. Both styles of challenges have difficulties, and beating them all in extreme can be incredibly daunting. For some added fun, however, the PS3 version, the version I completed, has free DLC to play as the Joker himself. The Joker comes with 8 combat challenges that have been altered to fit his different mechanics a bit better. The Joker has 3 gadgets instead of Batman's 8. The chattering teeth will make noise and detonate when it comes into contact with an enemy or by remote detonation. The X-ray specs act similarly to Batman's detective vision, only you can't walk around while using them. And finally, Joker has a gun. Joker's got a gun. It's just a gun. You shoot it, it kills people. It's just a regular gun. In challenge maps, you're only given 1 shot per round, so use it wisely as you can shoot through multiple enemies at a time.
Time to make this place a little less boring.
Through the various characters you've met and certain tapes you've acquired, we've learned of Joker's plan. Joker has been secretly funding the research of one Dr. Penelope Young, who's been researching a stronger version of the venom drug that fuels Bane called Titan. While she intended it to be used to help patients withstand difficult procedures, she didn't realize it was all a plan by Joker to create an army of super thugs. With her research already very far along, Joker launched his plan to enter the asylum and steal the Titan formula despite Dr. Yun refusing to help him any further. The plan was to dump the Titan formula into the Arkham River so it would then go into Gotham City. And with final level, we come to the end of the game. Up to this point, you've conquered all of the dangerous inmates in Arkham, overcoming Bane, Killer Croc, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and others to reach this point. Joker announces over the loudspeaker that the preparations for his party are ready, and when you return to the visitor center, there are now thugs and goons lining up to taunt you as you enter the final showdown. I just beat him up anyways because, reasons. Joker has re-kidnapped Commissioner Gordon, and as you step into the arena, Joker fires a Titan dart at the Commissioner. Batman takes the dart to save him, and Joker, in a fit of rage, injects himself with a huge dose of the stuff, and then he challenges you to a one-on-one Titan-fueled fight. Batman refuses to give in to the drug, using the antidote on himself, and now comes to the final boss. In fact, one could say it would be called Attack on Titan. Oh, yeah, that was me. That was a real bad one. So I'm very sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Very funny. A million laughs.
Joker fights you in several stages, changing up his style and dropping in a group of thugs in between each round. Upon finally taking him down, and lands a nasty right hook to Joker's big dumb face. Now, I'll be honest, and most of you who know the game quite well know what I'm about to say. This is the worst part of the game. After all this great plot that really plays to Joker's chaotic and crazy nature, and after a bunch of interesting and unique boss fights, it all gets thrown away with Joker falling to the level of a basic bad guy and getting really #buff boys to fight you in hand-to-hand combat. That just ain't the Joker way, man. The fight is pretty lackluster and it feels super out of place. Weird out of 10. Arkham Asylum is one of those games that puts a lot of emphasis on that whole "the journey is more important than the destination" mantra. There is no completion bonus, so to speak, other than the final trophies you get for completing the game. But a lot of the reward for completing the challenges comes right after each challenge itself. When collecting Riddler Challenges, you get to learn all about the inner workings of the asylum and the people that work there. You get to hear detailed backstory on characters that is not only interesting, but also well acted. You get so much cool information from all of the challenges, including the Chronicles of Arkham, that the reward for completing the Riddler Challenges is completing them. Plus, it makes the Riddler look like a total tool, which is always good fun in itself. So, you know, points.
Tell me, how did you work out where I was? Do you hear me? I, Edward Nigma.
The combat challenges have even less of a reward than that. In fact, it's pretty much just about bragging rights. Still, overall, I had enough fun with the game all the way through that it wasn't a huge issue, and completion wasn't really much of a chore aside from 1 or 2 really hard combat challenges, which I'll talk about in a moment. So back in 2009, when I got this game, I completed most of it when it first came out. So all the footage you've been looking at this whole time is my recent hard mode playthrough, which is required for a trophy. And even at that, the game wasn't that hard. I got stuck maybe once, twice, and all those times I got stuck was because the enemies had guns. Guns are the things that will stop you, no surprise there. And like I said earlier, the most I really struggled on the game was during the last of the combat challenges. I didn't have too much trouble with any of the Predator ones, but I really had to buckle down and grind out some of those later combat ones. So even with all that and the hard mode playthrough, I didn't find myself too frustrated with this game. I got stuck a couple of times in the main storyline, but honestly, the gameplay is paced nicely, and there was definitely never a rage quit moment to be had. Arkham Asylum, while it had a couple of bumps here and there, is one of the best games I've played all the way through in a while. There's some decent replay value, a ton of unlockables, and the journey is way more important than the destination, with an emphasis on finding and solving puzzles throughout the entirety of the island. Come to think about it, Arkham Asylum's kind of a collectathon with adult-based combat. Speaking of which, if all of you haven't supported Yooka-Laylee, now is the time. Go support this Kickstarter. I mean, they don't really need the support, but support them anyways. Batman Arkham Asylum is a well-constructed game with a bunch of interesting and fun gameplay elements. It has a ton of cool hidden backstory in it, a combat system with a lot of depth, and an extensive amount of collectibles and challenges to keep the whole game interesting. But the ending kind of sucks. I think we all know that, especially if you've played Arkham Asylum for yourself. It falls flat on its face right in the final moments. But it's such a small portion of the game that it's unfair to say the rest of the game isn't as great just because of one shortcutting. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of Finna Pete It.
Finna Pete It.
Thank you guys for watching today's episode. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for today, Audible. Audible, as most of you know, is a great service where you can get audiobooks. There's over 150,000 books currently in their inventory. If you go over to audible.com/ I believe it's that one, you can sign up for a free trial for 30 days. Currently, I'm listening to Extra Lives, Why Video Games Matter by Tom Bissell. I hope it's Bissell. It looks like it's Bissell. It not only chronicles Tom's personal journey through video games, but it also talks about the gaming industry as a whole, with interviews and excerpts from certain game devs and news media people. And it's actually narrated by Tom himself, so it's kind of a fun, cohesive piece in looking at it. For me personally, you know, I have a show called Why We Love Games, and it kind of lines up with this book thematically, so it's been a great listen for me, especially because I have been heavily medicated sitting around my house waiting to recover, and this book's really been a godsend for me the past few days during my recovery process. So, Extra Lives, take a look, or a listen in this case, and once again, thank you to Audible for sponsoring this episode of The Completionist.
Are you guys still here? Hopefully so, and if not, well, come back, please. If you're still around, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here, and while you're at it, check out our other video on Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, or if you want something a little bit different, you can check out our top 10 from the week before that. As always, guys, thank you for supporting the show. All of you are awesome, including you, Steve. I know, Steve, that you don't agree, but I love you in a total bro way, Steve.
That's all the time we've got for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. I am going to go pass out. I have been recovering all this week, and I'm still, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a 6 or a 7. But, hey, man, haters gotta hate, completionists gotta complete, I guess. Thank you again for watching today's episode. If you're still here, tweet at me, hashtag Batman, because you made it this far in the video. I always like these end bits because I feel like no one stays long enough to watch them. So if you stay long enough, thank you for being here. Now, if you excuse me, I wrote in the script Batman, thinking it was going to be some kind of Batman thing, so this is the part of the episode where Mark just gets to put in whatever he wants, and I have no idea what's going to show up. So, there you go, Mark. Batman. Your key word is Batman.